and welcome to the latest episode in the Emergente Series. My name is Mariana Marcano, and I'm part of the Australia-LATAM Emerging Leaders Dialogue. Our organization seeks to strengthen relationships between Australia and Latin America through the next generation of young leaders. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Fabiola Campbell, the founder and principal mentor at Professional Migrant Women, an organization created to reduce the gap between migration and professional employment for women in Australia. Fabiola was born in Australia and grew up in Venezuela, where she studied criminology. Upon returning to Australia, she encountered difficulties finding her path in the professional life. After completing an MBA at Swinburne University in Melbourne, Fabiola set out to help other migrant women to find their footing and navigate the complexity of working and living in Australia. We welcome today Fabiola to the Emergente Series and ask about her experience. We're going to have a fantastic conversation around our experience and how she's part of the leadership in Australia in the migrant community. Welcome, Fabiola.
Thank you so much for having me, Mariana. It's a great pleasure to be here and to share my experiences and my stories with your audience.
Thank you, Fabiola, for being here. If I take back time, a couple of years and a half ago, I reached out to Fabiola to ask about the Professional Migrant Women mission and everything she was doing. I was so inspired by your work and your journey. As a Venezuelan and as a migrant woman, I felt so close to your cause. And I guess now, it's so funny how life works. It is a great pleasure for me to be interviewing you and knowing a bit more about the journey that you have been through. So let's begin with the first questions. I guess we want to know, how do you start Professional Migrant Women? What inspired you to get there, and how the organization operates at this moment?
Well, that's a great question, and I heard somewhere a fantastic line, and I kind of pinched that line. My desperation was my inspiration. Having gone through all of this hurdle myself, really made me realize that there was something that needed to be done. I feel that I was really lucky because when I arrived to Australia, I actually met some people that were able to give me a lot of support. So a person very close to me, he used to be an HR manager, and he taught me, the whole recruitment process, from how to analyze a position description, how to write a selection criteria, how to write a cover letter, how to write a resume. Because the way we do resumes in Venezuela, say, for example, or in other countries, could be very different to the way it's done here in Australia. So even, when we think that we know, there are so many things that can be learned. And I was very fortunate to have a person to help me navigate all of those things. Then, fast forward, 15 years, I was at a point in my career where I wanted to do something meaningful, to make a contribution. And one thing led to the other, but I, again, found myself in a position where, with my skills as a corporate trainer, so I can design and deliver training, and with my knowledge in the HR area and my own experience, my own migrant experience, trying to understand and navigate the job market in Australia, I found myself in a position where I could actually make a contribution, where I could use my knowledge and my skills to make a meaningful contribution. And here's the thing, one thing I realized is that over the years, over those 15 years that I had been in Australia at that point, I have shared all of this information with many people, especially women. And that's when, I had that moment, okay, I want to work with community. I want to work with women. And this is something that I know well and that I can share. And guess what? The other thing is there are a lot of people that need this kind of support. And that's how Professional Migrant Women started, with the knowledge that we have a lot of smart, talented people with experience and qualifications that can get a proper job here in Australia. And again, one of the things that I realized was that, yes, we have the talent and we have the vacancies in the job market,
Yep.
but what is the gap? And there was a knowledge gap. And it was a knowledge gap that was actually quite easy to close because you didn't have to train these people as professionals. So it was an extensive training. It was a very specific training on how to access the Australian job market. And that's what we did. And that's, what we have been doing for the past 3 years.
Amazing, amazing. Yes. So I'm interested to know about the idea of the gap, right? So what is it about Australia, in your opinion, that makes it difficult for migrant women to get that first, second, and third opportunity in their professional job? Because as you said, we have the skills, there are, vacancies. So what's happening there that is quite complicated for us to get that opportunity? So what do you think it will be? What is there?
Right. Again, as I referred to before, there is, first of all, there's a knowledge gap, from the migrant herself, right? So I don't know how to do a CV, a cover letter, a job application, etc. And even if I'm getting job interviews, I don't know how to do a job interview. Again, there are more skills in there to be learned. And the last thing I believe that is important in this context is how to build professional networks. So most of us back in our countries, we don't think about our networks or our professional networks because they come natural to us. Our first network is our family, then we have our neighbors, then we have our friends, but then, our classmates from school or university. And that's our network. But when we move countries, all of that disappears. And we have to start again. And people say, but I didn't have to do networking when I used to live in my country. No, you didn't have to. Because, as you grew up, you were developing those networks naturally. In here, you have to do that. So there is a knowledge gap from the individual point of view. But also, there's, from the Australian workplaces, there is a missed opportunity because what the research suggests is that there are quite a few barriers to entry. Not only, say, discrimination, let's put on aside, but, the difficulties of the recruitment processes. Not even, that are not even easy for Australia, for local people, right? So, and
yes,
because of the way the processes are designed, it actually leave out this part of the population that can contribute greatly, but they are just leaving out those opportunities on the table. Yes. So the design of the recruitment process, the design of the job interviews, the the lack of awareness about cultural diversity when it comes to approaching different communities and even, job interviews and why not, all of these elements contribute to barriers. And if we are talking about women, is trying to design job opportunities that cater for all sorts of women, right? Not only the ones that can work full time,
Yes.
but people that have, say, family responsibilities that need a different approach to the traditional way of working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the good thing, though, is that after COVID, there's many things like remote work that have been normalized, and that also are helping create that equity in our society. And hopefully, it is my hope that, in the years to come, we will see more movement, forward movement in this space for women and for migrants in general.
Yeah. You mentioning that, I'm just remembering one of my job interview processes in the past. And what I loved about this process, as you said, is not easy to navigate the different components that you need to be successful. And one of the things they sent me to prepare for the interview, they sent me all the questions that they might ask. So that was great. But they also said at the end, for the interviewers, so for the panel, because it was a panel, please be aware that this person speaks English as a second language. So somehow it was kind of a little bit of awareness, and that it might be my second or my third language, and I might not understand everything you ask me or everything we discuss. So I feel that there's a hope in that diversity, and in the job, in the different interviews that you can have in different organizations.
Look, I think that's an example of ways of reducing some of those barriers, and that's the kind of things that I would love to see more and more. But even from the position description, there's so many things that can be done that encourage the participation of women or people with disabilities, or LGBTQI communities, or anybody for that matter, but making it very clear that workplaces are inclusive.
Great. Let's talk a bit about the future now. Tell me it's a new year, new resolution. So what are the plans for you and for the professional migrant women? So do you have new initiatives? Are you planning to do something bigger this year? How's that looking in 2023?
Wow. So there's something we did last year that was massive for us anyway, as an organization. We are a very small organization, and we do what we do only with the support of our volunteers. And one of our amazing volunteers had an idea. Her name is Etienne Long, and she said, "Hey, Fabi, why don't we write a book with the stories of professional migrant women? Because we have heard so many amazing stories and inspirational stories." And that sounded like, yay, let's do that. That sounds fantastic. And we put out a call to the community. We thought, okay, maybe 15 to 20 stories. That will be great. We left it open for about a month, and we got about 130 submissions. And then, we started with editing process and all of that. And if you allow me, what happened as a result of that is that we launched.
Wow! Amazing.
So it's called Undefeated. And it's the story of, in the end, so we had 90 authors, and we had 118 stories. These are women from 43 different countries and from all over Australia. So this is a project that has taken a life of its own, and it's quite aligned with our vision for professional migrant women. One of the things that we set out to do, say, from last year was to increase the visibility and representation of professional migrant women in Australia. And why is that? Well, there is a saying that goes, if she can see it, she can be it.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that they were talented and very capable women and leaders in our community. But if we don't know who they are, it is hard for us to relate to them, right? So the purpose of this book was to bring to light those stories of those amazing women in a way that was easy for people to access the information, but also, you know, hoping that they could be seen through the stories of these women, that they could relate to the stories of these women.
Yeah.
As I said, 18 stories. All of them are very short, say from 50 to 500 words. So some of them are 1 page long, some of them are half a page long, and some of them are 3 pages long. So you can virtually open the book in any page and have a message, you know, have a message for you. So what is on for this year? What we want to do is to take, you know, a book on a tour, and showcase the authors of that book. So most of the authors are here in Victoria, but we have authors, as I said, you know, all over Australia, and we want to go there and share their stories from their point of view. You know, we want people to hear their voices, and we want people to identify with whatever story, you know, talks to them, but to let them know that they're not alone.
Yes.
To let them know that although the migration process is not easy, you know, when people persevere, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
And you know, as we have many stories of frustration, there are also many stories of success.
Plenty, yes.
So that is the big thing for 2023.
Yes, so you're gonna tell me in a minute how people can find the book, but before you tell me that, let's go back to the stories. I know there's plenty, and I know this question is going to be tricky for you, but there is a specific story of your mentees. I mean, you've been doing this for 3 years. So again, I know you have plenty, but there's a particular story that you remember being so inspiring that it actually inspired you in times of difficulty, maybe, from your mentees.
Actually, look, when I see what some of my mentees have gone through, it's funny because the relationship between mentor and mentee is somehow parallel in some areas. So they might be struggling with something that you have overcome, but sometimes you are also struggling with new things. And when you see a person pushing through difficult times, probably they are in a situation worse than yours. But when you see that they are pushing through, that really inspire me. You know, when I hear their fears and I said to them, well, you know, you need to keep going, you need to continue, come on. I hear myself and I think, yep, that's what I have to do as well. When I say to people, you know, you don't have to lose hope. Just one foot at a time, live one day at a time, focus on one task. I think to myself, yes, that's what I need to do as well at this time. I think that one of the things that is very common is that we are very impatient, right? And we want things now. The interesting thing about the migration process in particular is that we have to let each process take its own course, right? So I'm going to tell you the story of one of our mentees. She is a communication specialist, a journalist from her country. And she was really good. She had a very high level professionally in her country. She decided to come to Australia and learn English to improve her career opportunities back at home. And once she came here, she decided, you know what, maybe I like to stay. Now, her English wasn't very good. That's the reason why she came. And what was challenging for her was that the language is the main tool of her trade. And she found herself in a position where she could not perform at the same level that she used to back at home. And then, obviously, the first thing she had to do, and she did actually for about 12 months, was to study English. But I tell you what, she was the kind of person that will actually dedicate time and attention to improve her skills. And you could see her passion for languages, I suppose, or for the use of language, because she put a lot of dedication. She was helping us as a volunteer as well. And about 12 months after she started, she said, I would like to write a blog. Go ahead. She started writing blogs. What she lacked in English proficiency, she made up for technical ability. And the blog posts that she created had really high quality. And, you know, somebody else, another member of the team, will come and fix the language, and boom, we had a really successful blog post because the way she wrote was really engaging, very interesting. Anyway, a few months later, somebody contacted me and she said, I'm looking for somebody that can help us with our communications in a voluntary basis. And I said, I have the person. So I recommended this person to this organization. They took her on board. She was working with them for 3 months as a volunteer. And after that, they offer her a paid position. So it is amazing. It is inspirational. The way that she dedicated herself to her craft and her learning, the commitment was, quite amazing. And then you can see everything takes time. Time is not something we can skip, but we just need to focus, and the opportunities will come.
Beautiful.
What we need is to say yes to those opportunities, even when they are really scary. Just back yourself, say yes, and then again immerse yourself into that learning and do your best, because as the example of this person that I mentioned, her technical skills were amazing.
Yeah.
So just tweaking her grammar was enough to have great content.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I can't just, it's just so good to, I'm just so looking forward to read the book and be inspired by all of the different stories. Is my own story. I'm in the communications space, and yes, I can definitely relate. I came to Australia to learn English. It was pretty much the same, and it's so good when great things happen, as you said, with time and patience and determination, and embracing that discomfort, because that's where opportunities are. And I think that's the best way, leap and do it. But I mean, Fabi, time flies when you're having fun, right? I'm amazed at the time. I don't know where time went. I just want to leave you a bit of a space to, if someone is watching this and would like to be involved, would like to be a volunteer, or would like to be part of your programs, or be part of the tour, if you do the tour, what do they need to do?
Well, I think the best way to keep up with the things that we do is to subscribe to our newsletter. Because there are things that are coming up all the time. As I said, we have authors all over Australia. We might start organizing tours outside Melbourne soon. In fact, there might be one coming up in Canberra soon. Yeah, and so best way to stay connected is subscribe to the newsletter. You can visit our website.
Good.
And in our website, you will be able to find the book and buy the book. You can also, once you register to the newsletter, and you will see the events coming up, come and join us at our events, get connected to our community. We usually have books at our events, and so if you're around and you want to pick up a book, that's a great time to do it too. And we also have the usual suspects in social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and because ours is a professional network, we are our biggest communities in LinkedIn, and we are Professional Migrant Women in LinkedIn and PMW community in Facebook and Instagram.
Great. We're gonna add those names and details of Professional Migrant Women in our descriptions when we post this fantastic interview. Fabi, it's been a pleasure. It's been really inspirational and insightful conversation. We really thank you for your time. And do you want to add anything else before we go?
Yes, absolutely. I would like to thank you as well for the opportunity, for having me, for letting me share my story and the story of other women, and to thank you for being the voice of our community and building those bridges. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, Mariana.
Thank you. And to everyone watching, thank you, and stay tuned for more inspiring discussions with Australian and Latin American leaders in our El Emergente series. See you next time. Bye-bye.